I'd like to introduce a new town in an Osaka residential complex with an aging population. That is Nanko Port Town, a new town where all residences are apartments, which opened in 1977. It's such a large-scale new town that it's divided into 4 blocks, and its area is an impressive 100 hectares. To put it simply, 100 hectares is about the size of Tokyo. It's nearly as large as Disneyland and Disney Sea combined. However, the population of this new town continues to decline. In recent years, there have been elementary school closures and consolidations, and the aging of the population is accelerating. Of course, it's been nearly half a century since the town opened, but that's not the only reason. In this video, I will introduce the history of Nanko Port Town, the current issues it faces, and its future, while sharing on-site footage and my impressions from visiting. On this channel, I will continue to provide content that everyone can enjoy. I will be making lots of videos, so please be sure to subscribe to the channel. So this time, I will be covering the Osaka Metro Nanko Port Town line. It's commonly known as the New Tram. I've come to Port Town East Station on this railway to film. It's a holiday today, but I'm concerned about how few people there are. In addition to Port Town East Station, there are also Port Town West Station and Nakafudo Station as the nearest stations to Nanko Port Town. But the Port Town East Station I visited this time is the central one. To ride the Nanko Port Town line, you need to go to the western end of the Osaka Metro Cho line, board at Cosmo Square Station and transfer, or head to the south end of the Osaka Metro Yotsubashi line. Transfer to Aquin Station. It takes about 30 minutes from both Umeda and Nanba, so it's not really in a good location. If you go straight from Port Town East Station, this is what you'll see. What comes into view right away is Nanko, which opened in 1979, 2 years after the opening of Port Town. The Port Town Shopping Center is the only commercial facility in the new town, but I'd like to first give an overview of Nanko Port Town, so let's pass by here for now. If you turn left, you'll see apartment complexes on your right. Some of this information may overlap with what I mentioned at the beginning, so please bear with me. To repeat exactly, this is a new town that began opening in stages starting in 1977. During rapid economic growth, the population surged, and Osaka sought to accommodate the influx of new residents. Land reclamation has been carried out since the post-war period. Large apartment complexes were built one after another on the artificial island called Sakishima, making it a large-scale new town on an artificial island, which is rare even nationwide. Sakishima was the technoport during the bubble era. It was the center of the Osaka Plan, which was Osaka's sub-center development plan. It was designated as a special zone and is also an area that experienced uncontrolled development. The buildings, which can be called bubble-era legacies, are located just north of Nanko Port Town in such buildings. I've introduced this in another one of my videos, so I'll put the link in the description. Please check it out if you're interested. A person with a history, Sakishima, also called Kojima, but it's Nanko. That means Port Town had already existed for about 15 years before the reckless development during the bubble era. The residential areas are divided into 4 zones, each with a nickname: Green Town, Sea Town, Sun Town, and Flower Town. By the way, the area I'm walking in right now is Green Town. If you look at it on an aerial map, the town is surrounded by greenery, and it even looks like it's isolated from the outside world. In this new town, people live their everyday lives. It's likely impossible due to the location, but playing run for money here would be interesting. And as I walk around, I can't help but notice how well-maintained and beautiful the town is. Even though it's far from the central areas of Osaka like Namba or Umeda, there are also many parks in Osaka City, making it an ideal environment for raising children. When this new town first opened, it attracted attention as a city floating on the sea, But since there were no trains running through it, it didn't really take off at the time. I don't think there were many people, but those who didn't have cars had to take a bus from the bus terminal in Bentencho to get home. It was like an isolated part of the city. It seems it was a small island. The turning point was in 1981 when I wrote it earlier. With the opening of the Nanko port town line, the population increased rapidly. The peak of this new town was in 1990 during the bubble era. However, after that, the population continued decreasing and is now about 20,000. Moreover, the residents are aging. Currently, more than 30% of the residents are over 65 years old. By the way, this is more than 5% higher than the overall rate in Osaka City. At first, Nanko Elementary School was in Hina no Machi. Nanko Hikari Elementary School was in Taiyo no Machi. Nanko Elementary School was in Umi no Machi, and Nanko Midori Elementary School was in Midori no Machi. Each area had its own elementary school, but due to the decrease in the number of children as the population aged, Nanko Elementary School and Nanko Midori Elementary School were merged. As a result, they became a combined elementary and junior high school, and the elementary school section was changed to Nanko Minami Elementary School. So there have been some changes here and there. With the footage cut, it may be hard to notice, but even just walking around, I noticed many elderly people. That said, besides elementary and junior high schools, there are also high schools and universities. So on weekdays, there should be a lot of young people. However, in recent years, the number has increased in Nanko Port Town. It seems that many elderly people who have continued to live here end up moving away. The reason for this is related to the biggest feature of this new town. That's the creation of a no-car zone, unique in the country. The government and police discussed ways to protect residents from noise, exhaust fumes, and traffic accidents, aiming to create a quiet and green town. A vehicle traffic prohibition zone under the Road Traffic Act, also known as a no-car zone. A dedicated entrance gate was set up for the new town. Therefore, except for bicycles, vehicles are prohibited from passing through unless permission is obtained from the police station. Parking lots must also be rented outside the designated area. For the people who live there, No Car Town is a safe and wonderful place. However, the population is aging. Now instead, it has brought hardship to the aging residents. Because their cars are outside the area, they must walk to retrieve them. They need to do this, and even to take a taxi, they had to walk all the way to the gate street. For elderly people with mobility issues and even those without, walking long distances each time is difficult. By the way, the place where I got off is Nanko Port Town, which is in front of Port Town Higashi Station. There's also a note at the bottom left of the guide map that says, as a rule, vehicles are prohibited from passing through the Port Town area all day. I didn't notice this note until I watched the video again, so I'm sorry I didn't focus on filming this warning. It was a careless mistake, so please forgive me. As expected, with the aging population progressing, having a no-car zone in the new town, it was decided that it's impossible to continue as we have until now. In 2016, regulations were eased, so something that once needed permission, vehicles and taxis transporting people with mobility issues, such as the elderly and infants, and cargo transport vehicles were excluded from regulations. Because of this, now you can enter just by submitting a pass notification to the gate security guard. However, there are still concerns about accidents, and opinions are divided over the standards for letting vehicles through the gate. Well, I think that's only natural. People moved in with the promise that they wouldn't have to worry about cars. So of course they're upset when things turn out differently and it gets noisy. However, honestly, I know it's not really my place to say since I don't live in this new town, but personally, I think it was a good decision to relax the restrictions. Even though there are trains, since this place is far from central Osaka, having a car is much more convenient, so easing restrictions makes sense. If things hadn't changed, elderly people would have had to move away. There was even a possibility that the already declining population would decrease even further, and things would get even worse. For now, I think it was good that we were able to stop it through deregulation. However, from the residents' perspective, there are probably other complicated circumstances, so I'll stop talking about this here. Changing the subject, there is another major feature of Nanko Port Town. Some apartment complexes disposed of garbage via dust chutes, then transported it by carrier ship. Over 40 years after the system was built, frequent malfunctions like holes in carrier ships have occurred. Maintenance cost was roughly 2 yen per year, nearly double the expense of using regular collectors. In 2012, the city decided to discontinue it due to the heavy financial burden. However, the residents strongly requested to keep the convenient dust chute, so the city changed its plan. While the air transport system would be discontinued, the dust chutes inside the buildings themselves would remain. The new system starts from the dust chute, and underground tank stores discarded garbage, which is regularly collected by a special vehicle and taken to the incineration plant. It's a very convenient system, so from the residents' perspective, they don't want it to be discontinued. It's only natural that they don't want that. I don't know how much the current costs are because there was no data available, but honestly, I think it probably costs more than simply collecting with a garbage truck, so I can't really say for sure. And finally, one more thing. The new town is well equipped with medical facilities. The port town where I got off. At Port Town Nishi Station, which is next to Higashi Station, there are only medical facilities. I also picked up a map. Of course, there are ophthalmology, internal medicine, and dermatology clinics. There are obstetrics and gynecology clinics, plus large hospitals. It's great. Aside from the location, I think it's an ideal, comfortable town. The apartment complexes haven't just been left neglected, they've been repainted and repaired, so they're clean and well maintained. When you look at property listing sites like SUUMO, most of the rooms for sale have been fully renovated and they're all very beautiful. Also, there are cases where the building is quite old. Most prices are under 20 million yen, which is surprisingly low for Osaka City and very affordable. The roads are generally wide and cars can't pass through unless they have permission. There are also many plazas, parks, and hospitals, so after watching this video, some of you might be thinking you'd like to live here. By the way, I'm thinking the same thing as I make this video. If you have a car, there's also a highway entrance nearby, so I think it's appealing that you can easily go on trips. I'll pause the introduction of the new town here for now, and now, what you've all been waiting for. It's essential for Nanko Port Town residents' daily lives. It's called Nanko Port Town Shopping Center. Let me introduce the sole commercial facility here. You immediately sense a Japanese atmosphere upon entering. It opened in 1979 and apparently has never undergone any major renovations. Each tenant is on the right, with Daily Cunard Supermarket on the left and other individual shops. It seems that the shops are the main focus here. When I went up to the second floor, there was a Daiso and a mysterious Santa balloon set up in the atrium. Since I filmed this in December, it was a Santa, but it seems that balloons matching the season are always displayed here. And so on. There aren't clothing stores like Uniqlo, so it feels like a rundown countryside shopping center, but it does have daily essentials like a bookstore, Daiso, and a supermarket. All the necessities were there. Right now I'm at the main building of the Nanko Port Town Shopping Center, and next to it there's a food court called Carillon Plaza, so I'm gonna check it out. As I go further in, there are some vacant stores, but I guess it's still within an acceptable range. This place opened in 1992, and it was a facility that was newly built later on, during a time when Nanko Port Town was thriving. There are places like McDonald's, udon shops, and takoyaki stands. As for the lineup, I'd prefer not to comment. Since carillon means bell in Japanese, there's a bell installed in front of the entrance. The clock tower-like structure on the right seems to be a mysterious observation deck. With all second-floor restaurants now vacant, there's no reason to go upstairs. The escalator and stairs are blocked by cones, so you can't go up now. There's a huge bell installed in the back. It was here originally. It seems to be the bell that was used at the Osaka Expo held in 1970. They inherited it. That's why the facility is called Carillon Plaza. That's correct. It had a strong bubble era vibe, and I really liked it. By the way, in Nanko Porttown, besides the Nanko Porttown Shopping Center that I talked about this time, there's also a supermarket called Supernational, shops under the apartment complexes, and learning facilities here and there. The expo has also been confirmed. Perhaps due to that influence, a new building has been built in Nanko Porttown for the first time in over a decade. The Lejade Nanko Hana Terrace condominium has been built, and residents are scheduled to move in during the second half of 2024. Depending on how well this condominium sells, it seems like the future of Nanko Porttown will be decided. So I'm really looking forward to it. That was my overview and impressions of Nanko Porttown. It was a really nice town. Will one of the highest aging rates in Osaka City improve in the future, or will it continue to get worse? And as for the deregulated no-car zone, what will happen to it in the future? I plan to keep a close eye on it from now on. That's all for this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a like. See you in the next video.